Now I'm going off the script in this video because what we just witnessed last night was legendary. It was extraordinary. It was ridiculous, and it was absolutely peak. And it's crazy because the Tuesday games were already good, but somehow the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the second legs, got even better. And of course I'm back via popular demand to tackle it all, and we are going to start off with the blockbuster on the night, the one that all the world was watching. If you weren't watching this game, you were missing out. You know, you were losing brain cells and your life was getting wasted. Yes, we are talking about Arsenal versus Sporting. Alright, before we get into this video is brought to you by Oxford Natural Optimum Day and Night. Now listen, I'm not going to stand here and tell you I've been using this for 47 years and it changed my entire bloodline. But this is the good stuff. This is what's helping me go from chud to chad. And it's not just me that it's been helping, it's other creators within the space and also a couple legends too. With Optimum Day helping with cravings and also energy, and Optimum Night helping with sleep and recovery. And as someone who has previously taken supplements in the past, this has just made my life a whole lot easier. With proven results from a bunch of people in the space, I thought let me help you guys out. And just look at the difference between Michael Owen, Ballon d'Or winner and England legend, around £35 lost, and Robbie from AFTV, the Don, lost over £80. So if you want to help yourself get right, make sure you go to oxfordnatural.com/jib, or you can scan the QR code on the screen now and you can get 70% off your first order with Oxford Natural. You know, so don't tell me I don't help you guys. Thank you to Oxford Natural for helping my health, but also helping out the channel. And of course, let's get back into the video. You really thought that I was gonna watch the Arsenal game? You thought I was gonna watch the Arsenal game? I know I'm an Arsenal fan. You know, I've been an Arsenal fan my entire life. I live 20 minutes from the stadium. But there was no way in my entire existence that I was going to sit through and watch Arsenal Sporting second leg. Yeah? We're not talking about that game. Actually, let's just talk about that game. Let's get it out of the way. Let's just talk about it. Because if the Bayern versus Real Madrid game was like a Monster energy drink or a Red Bull White, you know, the coconut flavor, which is my favorite, this game was a chamomile tea. You know, an Earl Grey tea, Red Bush, just the deadest sort of tea. No milk, no sugar, no honey. Boring. After winning the first leg 1-0 over in Portugal, Arsenal and Sporting would play out a 0-0 draw. And I'm not saying that it wasn't entertaining because, you know, each team had a bunch of opportunities, a bunch of shots, but nobody was hitting the target. At one point, Sporting hit the post. You know, Trincao was missing the goal. Eze was shooting. But nobody had their shooting boots on. It was like on FIFA if you just went on the sliders and put manual shooting on. This is how you would look. Of course, Arsenal could walk into this second leg carrying the advantage via Kai Havertz's last minute goal in the first leg, so they were looking comfortable. You know, even if Sporting had opportunities, there was no real threat to this Arsenal side. I don't think anyone was really panicking watching this. They were just, you know, bored. Many of the Arsenal players did show some signs of life, like the likes of Martinelli, Eberechi Eze, even Madueke had a couple points in the game where he was ripping up man on that right hand side, but none of them could really deliver the fatal blow to, you know, keel over these Sporting players. And I think what really sums up this game is that Arsenal had 15 shots, Sporting had 8 shots, and either of these sides had one big chance in the game. So it was just a bunch of nonsense. However, Arsenal have now made history, you know, going to back-to-back semi-finals in the Champions League. So that is something to be proud of. And they are now lined up against Atletico in a semi-final that is looking like, you know, peak Arteta Netanyahu versus Osama bin Simeone. And let's not even act like this is going to be a bad game. This is going to be a great game. You know, I'm looking forward to it. I know the whole world is looking forward to this. And yeah, and just for your information, Arsenal have only lost once in their last 24 European games. So, you know, as much as we want to say that they are struggling, they are not struggling in Europe. And I think all Arsenal fans will just take this going into a game that means so much on Sunday against Manchester City. But enough with that. You know, that's enough. Is that enough? Yeah, I'm done. I'm not talking about the Arsenal game no more. Let's talk about what really matters. Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. the second leg of a lifetime, one of the best Champions League games that I've seen in recent memory, the best Champions League game of this season, of the tournament so far. It was just incredible. You could not take your eyes off the screen. Let's get into it. Now, this was a fixture between two sides that host some of the best superstars in world football. Real Madrid with the likes of Mbappe, Vini Jr., Trent, Bellingham, Arda Güler. Bayern with the likes of Harry Kane, Olise, Diaz, and so many more. This was the battle for the ages. And after their first leg tie ending 2-1 but Manuel Neuer putting up a 10 out of 10 performance between the sticks, a lot of people saw Bayern just rolling over Real Madrid in this second leg. And going into this game, I actually thought that Real Madrid had a big opportunity because, you know, in that first leg it was a lot of brilliance by Neuer to stop the likes of Mbappe and Vini Jr. from finishing their opportunities. And on any other day, if Manuel Neuer isn't up to it, you know, he can concede. And inside 1 minute in this game, he would concede. This would not be the same Neuer that we saw in the previous leg. Neuer would make a mistake that would get instantly clipped. You know, this is a type of highlight that will be shown to generations. You know, this mistake versus Real Madrid. And ultimately, it would be Arda Güler that capitalized on this situation. Putting the ball into an empty goal from range, it was just instant reaction by Arda Güler. And from there, it seemed like this comeback was on because Real Madrid had just been boosted by adrenaline. They had just brought the tie to 2-2 and it's game on now. But because this wasn't just any team that Real Madrid had done this to, Bayern Munich had just hit back on 8 minutes. With Joshua Kimmich whipping in the ball from a corner and Pavlovic, you know, just headering the ball. It's like the ball was whipped onto his head because Lunin, I don't know what this brother was doing in goal. He was fighting demons in there and just fell back into his own goal. Pavlovic is just standing there. Ball goes into the back of the net and it's 1-1 in the game, and now Bayern Munich have taken the advantage. And then it would happen again because after Bayern Munich's goal, it was all Bayern. You know, they were just hosting the play. You know, they were biding their time. They were creating opportunities, putting pressure on these Real Madrid defenders. They had the chances, but against the run of play, Real Madrid get a free kick. And then Arda Güler steps up for the free kick and whips it into the top right corner of the goal. You look at the replay and you've just realized that Manuel Neuer again has slipped up. You know, he should have stopped this free kick, but he hasn't. And Arda Güler has scored 2 great goals and is having one of the greatest games of his career. And up until that point, I actually thought Real Madrid's plan was being executed beautifully. You know, the likes of Bellingham was putting in a powerhouse performance, running up and down this pitch, bringing the ball forward. Trent Alexander-Arnold was also amazing. Arda Güler was running the show. Mbappe and Vini seemed a bit wasteful, but at times they were providing the outlet. But then just 10 minutes after this Arda Güler free kick, Bayern Munich would come up with another goal. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find any extended footage of this goal, but it started and it just continued with Harry Kane being in the box, then the ball eventually being, you know, recycled and them not losing it. It would go completely in a circle. Eventually, Upamecano would find himself on the ball and he just slips through a beautiful ball into the path of Harry Kane. Luis Diaz's run has actually taken the defender in a different direction, allowing a bit of space for Harry Kane to just get the shot off. And he does get that shot off and it goes into that far right corner. I'm telling you, it's the little things that really made this goal. Luis Diaz taking away Militao, forcing him into, you know, to 2 decisions to make. And Harry Kane is the deadliest striker on planet Earth right now. You give him a chance like that and he is going to slot it away. And that's another big goal in another big game for a player that is striving and doing so much in all competitions this season. Harry Kane is on fire. And that's number 50 for Harry Kane this season, and that just sums him up. He was everywhere in this game. He was dropping into midfield and picking up the ball. He was all the way, you know, at the back line, retrieving the ball and just passing it to the defense. He was everywhere and so influential, and I don't think he's going to get a lot of the praise because, you know, of other stuff that happened in the game. But to me, you know, watching full 90 minutes of Harry Kane is a blessing because of the robotic strikers that we're having to witness in football right now that don't really like to get involved in all aspects of the play and just like to finish off. Harry Kane doesn't just finish off, he does everything else. And in this Bayern Munich side, he's just complemented so beautifully by the chaos of Luis Diaz and the elegance of Olise. And in that first half, I would personally say that these two wingers weren't as lively as, you know, they were in the first leg. Especially Michael Olise at times, who was pitted up against Ferland Mendy, who, you know, was doing a better job than Carreras from previous weeks. But then again, in like the 41st minute, this would be Real Madrid's tactic throughout the game, where they would, you know, succumb to the pressure of Bayern Munich and forge quick transitions, with Bellingham, I think, giving the ball down the left-hand side to Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr. just driving towards this Bayern 18-yard box. Mbappe's in the middle on a free-man zone. You know, nobody is picking up an Mbappe run. He's drifting into space. Vinny Jr. is dragging off like three men, you know, taking them away, occupying all these guys' eyes, while Mbappe has made a ghostly run into the box. Vinny Jr. times the ball perfectly. It goes into the path of Mbappe, and Mbappe sticks it home. Like, in this situation, did you really need three players to go and press Vinny Jr., who had the ball, and Upamecano gets caught lacking? You know, again, did he take a shady deal? I don't know, because I watched the entire game. I don't actually think Upamecano was bad, but for this goal specifically, there was just a few moments in this game where he was sloppy, and to not track Mbappe in a time like this is crucial. There was other times in the game where he made big challenges, so I'm not really going to get at him and claim that he took a shady deal again. You know, I don't think he took the shady deal. But if someone offered me a shady deal before the game, I would score an own goal. Bicycle kick. That goal would make it 3-2 on the night and now 4-4 on aggregate. This was all in the first half. Like, I'm not doing this game enough justice, I swear. If you didn't watch this game, you were playing the fool. And then half time finally hit. And then I just had to take a breather. You know, I just went to the kitchen, had to go make a cup of tea, go and breathe in some air. And then we get back into a second half that slow burned into chaos, with Bayern in this half just taking control in the game bit by bit. More control, more of the ball, more pressure on these Real Madrid players. Now you're not hearing the commentators praising the likes of Bellingham, Trent, Mbappe, Vinny Jr. It's all gone silent. But still, in a flash, Real Madrid could get opportunities on the transition, and we would see that, where Vinny Jr. would get played through, and if his touch was better there, he would have, you know, had an opportunity. Or Mbappe, if his touch was better there, then he could have got in behind. These two throughout the game were just causing problems because they were not, you know, in the defensive shape. They were just staying high and occupying the Bayern Munich back line. And when Bayern Munich attack, they attack with a lot of their fullbacks getting in and involved. And what that means is that it's like 2v2 at the back. When you've got Konrad Laimer going all the way up and you've got the right back Stanisic going all the way up, you know, there's holes in the defense where quick transition balls by the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Bellingham, Arda Güler, who was amazing in this game, opened up opportunities for Vinny Jr. and Mbappe, and we saw that throughout the game. That was just their game plan, and that was the pattern. But all would eventually change in, you know, a moment of madness, because in that second half, Camavinga would be brought onto the pitch, and after like 10 minutes of being on the pitch, Camavinga would pick up a first yellow in the game, which would lead to a Bayern Munich free kick. But it wasn't this card that would ruin the game, it would be his second yellow that he would pick up. Because with the aggregate score being 4-4, the last thing you need is one of your players to be sent off. But in the 86th minute, you know, Bayern Munich are given like a foul, and Camavinga picks up the ball and like walks away with it. And it just keeps on going and keeps on going. And in my head, I think, okay, that's not really a big deal. But when you really look at the rules of football and how many other times people have got sent off by doing similar things, you know, I guess that he could have got sent off. It's happened to Trossard before, I remember, but he kicked the ball away. So Camavinga picking it up and just walking away with it whilst referee was trying to let him off, you know, it resulted in him getting a second yellow and being sent off. And I know there's two sides to this argument. There's going to be some people that say it's harsh, and there's going to be some people that say that it's deserved. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can't help actions that have already happened in the past. You can't fix what's already happened. What can you do? So Camavinga decides to do something stupid and then gets treated stupidly by the referee, given a second yellow card, and now Real Madrid are down to 10 men in a situation where they should have been going full throttle at this Bayern Munich back line. And then from that sending off, that's when Bayern Munich just have the extra man and they can just commit the players that they were already committing in the game, but without being hit on the transition, because now they have the extra man. Instantly after Camavinga was left off the pitch, they smelt blood, because it was 89 minutes, just 3 minutes after this sending off, where they capitalized on the situation and scored a goal. With Luis Diaz linking up with the likes of Musiala with a back heel towards Luis Diaz, and Luis Diaz wraps it into the far right corner of the goal. And I know that there was a deflection on the ball, but still, this was a beautiful, little goal by these Bayern Munich players, and by Musiala, who was newly injected into the second half, who got brought on for Gnabry, who also, put in a big shift. And that would tie up the game 3-3, but also put Bayern Munich up 5-4 on aggregate. And this was a goal that Luis Diaz just needed, but there was another winger in this game that needed a goal even more. Because throughout the 90 minutes, these two wingers would just bide their trade and slowly work themselves into the game. And you saw that especially on that right hand side with Olise. You could see in that second half that he was free roaming at points, getting into central areas on the pitch, going on the left hand side at times just to get a feel of the ball. And eventually there would be, I think, 2 chances before his goal that he would cut in from the right hand side and whip it, trying to get to that top left corner, and he would miss twice. And I said, to my family when watching this, yeah, one more time and this guy's scoring, and eventually he would get that goal. And when I mean eventually, I mean eventually. This was like the 94th minute of the game, the last action of the game, where it's Luis Diaz on that left hand side. There's players around him, but his feet are just too quick. He gives it to Harry Kane. Harry Kane looks up, right hand side, Olise is there, spreads the play and gives it to him. And at this point in the game, you would think, okay, you've already kind of won. It's the last minute, you don't really need to attack. You can just go into that right corner. That's what Harambe would be. But Michael Olise says, oh hell no, I'm coming straight at you. Yeah, I'm coming straight at Ferland Mendy. He drives towards the defense, cuts in on that left foot and just swerves it. Just a nonchalant finish. He didn't even try for this goal. He didn't try as much as he did with the first 2 strikes, but it just dips into that far left corner. And that's it. Bayern Munich have now won 4-3 on the night and 6-4 on aggregate. And honestly, Real Madrid's night just capitulated once Camavinga was sent off, because Bayern Munich's tactics, they overwhelm you. And if you don't have enough players on the pitch, then they will overwhelm you without any repercussions. And that's what happened. And this result will send shockwaves down these Real Madrid players' spines, because they're not winning La Liga this year. Barcelona's going to wrap that up. They're not winning Champions League this year. And again, the legacy of the likes of Mbappe and Vini Jr. is getting tarnished. That's 2 seasons now that these two have played together. And nothing. No memorable Champions League nights. No nights where they've just put the spear to the throats of a team and just destroyed them and dismantled them single-handedly. No, Mbappe's probably got the worst luck in Champions League history, and if he doesn't buck up his ideas and start playing as a team with the likes of Vini Jr. and combining, and these two don't get some sort of chemistry, this will go down as one of the worst superstar teams that won, they didn't achieve anything together. And overall, this game was dominated by the Germans, with Bayern Munich having 69% possession, with them also having 21 shots to Real Madrid's 12. This was back and forth, but it was swaying to one side. But each side would have 3 big chances created in the game, and this was a classic. I don't think my commentary even does the game justice. You just have to watch the entire 90 minutes back, and you just had to watch it live. There's a bunch of players that just deserve praise to be, shrouded upon them. I think Pavlovic had an immense game, and he's someone that's not going to probably be spoken about a lot. Arda Güler in that first half was pulling the strings and is amazing. And I don't even think that this Real Madrid side played that badly. I actually think their tactics were, okay, because coming up against a Bayern Munich side that wants to dominate possession, that's how you're going to set up. You're going to set up on the transition, on the counter-attack with fast guys, Mbappe and Vini Jr. But unfortunately, Bayern Munich were just too good. But do I think that Bayern Munich will beat PSG? That is the real question. And I don't know. I am not a guy that likes to predict football games, but I genuinely don't know. But this this game between PSG and Bayern Munich, I don't care what's going on this day. I don't care if, you know, new wars are being announced, you know, new games are being announced, or someone's wedding is taking place, or the birth of a child. It does not matter. I do not care. I have to watch this game. I have to. Because this is going to be pure football. PSG versus Bayern Munich this season. Bro, the best attack in Europe right now. Diaz, Elise and Harry Kane against the best attack in Europe right now. With, you know, Doué, Dembele, Gavicha. So now we've got Bayern versus PSG and Atletico versus Arsenal. That's like anti-football versus pure football on either side of the bracket. So it doesn't matter. The final is going to be anti-football versus pure football. And we're just going to have to wait and find out what happens. These Champions League quarterfinals have been absolute cinema. And I feel like every game is just getting better. So if you want me to continue this series into the semi-finals, then just leave a like on this video. It just makes me know that you guys enjoy this series and you want me to continue it. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new to it. Also, follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up with updates on my life and when the videos are coming out and what breakfast I'm eating. And of course, give me your thoughts about this quarterfinals, you know, all the quarterfinals. And yeah. This has been Jib Rules. Make sure you stay safe, stay blessed, and peace. Also, I found the mic, the bit for the mic. So, yeah. Sorry about yesterday. I had to use a phone for the mic. And now the mic's back. Any other updates I need to let you know about? No.